there's so much you can actually be doing during lockdown that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. So whether that's from a compliance point of view, cleaning up your database, how to use your database. So I've known you for a long time now, and I think you specialise with Agent Box, correct?
Yes, I have. Look, I've got a very long background with Agent Box as a CRM, although I am somewhat familiar with a number of other providers.
Sweet.
It doesn't really matter at the end of the day what actual CRM you are using. Yeah. There's just some key things that you should be focusing on, not only just now because it's lockdown, but just in general.
Okay, cool. All right, well, take it away. What can an agent be doing at the moment? Why don't we start with compliance? What can an agent be doing from a compliance point of view to, I don't know, like get their paperwork in order or get their files in order? I mean, I'm a sales agent, so I'm generally asking this from a sales agent principal's point of view. What can we do?
Sure. Well, look, given that we're in a lockdown at the moment, it's a good time to check up on your compliance. If you don't know what you're doing around the matter of compliance, I strongly suggest that perhaps you get yourself up to date by attending some online CPD training courses. Yeah. They will help you just at least understand some of the changes that were actually made effect from March last year. Right. It's really important to sort of be across those changes with the supervision guidelines.
Okay. Is that to do with the license class?
So you're definitely doing some CPD training.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Sorry,
is that to do with the changes last March? Is that to do with the license changes from class 1 to class 2?
Yes, I mean there's license changes, but also the general supervision guidelines. There's now 10, okay, and it's really important that an agent and also business owners are fully understand what your obligations are. So to make it really easy, I would strongly suggest attending a CPD training course. Yep. Of course, with those changes, depending on the class of license that you may have, obviously yep, class 1 would be, in most cases, the business owner or the licensee in charge needs to have a class 1. Yeah. Of course, then there's a class 2. A class 2 agent needs to make sure that they pretty much know everything that a class 1 agent would otherwise. Right. And in terms of what the CPD requirements are, it's a matter of making sure you fulfill those new obligations. So as a class 1, you need to conduct 3 hours of the compulsory and 3 hours of elective. Yep. Same with a class 2, but what they will be bringing out is then an additional 3 hours business training. Okay. Then, of course, you've got your certificate holders. Now, of course, if there's any agents out there that are still certificate holders, you must be enrolled as, to do your certificate 4 in property by now. Yeah. And you need to fulfill obligations of doing a minimum number of units per year.
Now, that's the way that it always has worked, and I think this is one of the changes that was brought in March. I think my renewal date, I think it's like the 4th or 5th of April, but that's now out the window, isn't it? Is it the 28th of March, regardless of how your license falls? You must renew by that?
So yes, that's correct. So we're going to have, rather than having a renewal year from, whenever your license is due to be renewed, everyone's just going to eventually fall into line with the same I guess start and end date as far as that's concerned. And the same will apply with the CPD. Okay. Now, where I actually tend to help a lot of agents and also business owners navigate the obligations around the supervision guidelines, there's a lot of agents out there that have gone out and purchased an off-the-shelf solution. So they think with details of what's required under the supervision guidelines. Yeah, that's just part of the picture. So it's all well and good, you can get some checklists, but it's all about the implementation. So the best way to learn how to implement these things, honestly, is attend CPD training, understand what your obligations are. And then, of course, if you are a business owner or an agent that needs further help, then, someone like myself, and also have like a lot of colleagues that are specialised in this area, a panel of, auditors and trust accountants. So it's really important just to make sure you know what your obligations are.
So from the compliance point of view, from what you see, and like I said, I'm a sales agent, so when it comes to agreements and things like that, we just want to get the deal done and get on with it. Compliance, thank God we had our office managers and things like that. Where do you see the biggest mistakes are, or where do you see agents really need help in this space, especially with all the changes and stuff that's going on?
Yeah, look, the number one thing, make sure your agency agreements are filled in correctly. Look, it's up to the licensee in charge to make sure they check these agreements. But sometimes the licensee in charge doesn't even know what they're looking for on an agreement. So it's really important to understand how to fill in an agency agreement.
Yeah.
If you're going to go with a like a digital provider for the completion of agency agreement and execution, you can make sure that you've got measures in place to make sure that those things are being met. For example, making sure that, that you have cited an original copy of their identification. There needs to be a primary to secondary, and there's another one that a lot of agents get wrong, but you need to have also cited proof of legal ownership.
Yes.
So not only do you need to cite them, you need to take copies of these things, but you need to actually document and sign to say that you've done all those things. And that is where a lot of people go wrong.
So do you need to have a copy? Because I know with my last office, we actually had to, even if it was take a photo of like a rates notice or council notice or something, do you need to have that in your file, or do you just need to mark off that I've cited it? Is that enough?
Look, there's two parts. You must have cited the original, and you must also have a copy. Okay. If you want to cover yourself properly, then that's what the obligations are. And then, of course, Fair Trading have released a vendor identification form, which pretty much explains what those things are. It's also important to make sure that you've got a proof of identity checklist of some kind, just to say, these are all the things I must have done, and I've actually done them.
Okay, cool. Now, the other thing I've got with compliance is, I remember I've only had Fair Trading walk into the office once, and my heart just went up here.
That's and once too many. Once too many.
We were fine. We were fine, but we are all working from home now, and offices are shut for the majority. Are Fair Trading still doing compliance checks, and how is that happening?
Look, to be honest, I don't fully know, but it would not at all surprise me that one stage they're going to have the resources, the technology to be able to request that they are able to conduct an audit digitally, remotely. It would not at all surprise me. I don't know that is a fact, but it wouldn't at all surprise me knowing what I know. I've
heard rumours that the digital compliance checks are coming. If they're not in now, I've heard that they are coming, and it makes sense. You've got all this stuff like DocuSign. I just sold my property. We're talking, I think, last night. I sold my property in Newcastle. DocuSign, I believe the digital signatures are hanging around till next year. So it won't be long before, if they're not in, they'll be in. So it's definitely something that, even though we're working from home, I suppose that's even harder, because I know when I showed up to the office with my file, which was half completed all the time, I just got the signature, I was happy. Then our office manager will come back on the spot and say, you need to do this, and this to get the file ready. Are you seeing it lacking at all with people working from home, or is it just not really an issue too much?
Look, I think now, as an agent, as a business owner, that if you're not stepping up to the plate and catching on as far as technology is concerned, like getting digital signatures, I do still know of agents that are getting in their car and going to the vendor's home and asking for them to sign a document, like with a pen. Okay. And I understand that, yes, there might be some people that are a little bit challenged when it comes to technology, but the thing is, technology will not replace agents. It's just agents that do not harness the power of technology will be replaced eventually. That's a quote that I saw somewhere, and I thought, wow, what a great one. So it was at
the Women in Real Estate event.
Yes, that's correct.
It was
a great quote. And I agree with that statement. Look, I can even speak from personal experience from a buyer's perspective. I recently, just this week, signed a contract on a property, and the agent obviously uses technology, actually know them quite well, and it was so seamless. It's like offer and acceptance. Literally within 5 minutes, I got the contract. My solicitor already had the 66W ready. I signed it.
Yeah.
Then he called me. He said, "What's your bank details?" Popped them into the death payment system,
Yeah.
and then my deposit was paid. The deal was done within 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, on the flip side to that, I've just sold my property in Newcastle, and I own that with my parents. So the email came through from our conveyancer when we were unconditionally exchanging, and it was just so easy. I'm just here at home on the lounge. Yeah, boom, done, signed. Mum and Dad did it. And, you know, they're in Newcastle, solicitors in Newcastle. I'm here in Sydney. The property's in Newcastle, and yeah, done. And I think that's the way. It's not going to change back, is it? So what you were just saying about agents that don't embrace technology, unfortunately, you don't really have a choice.
No, we don't, especially not now, you know, with these lockdowns. And, you know, the lockdowns, with what we've seen in Melbourne, you know, they've had a really hard time with that. And, of course, us in Sydney now, we're starting to, you know, understand that, you know, this might be quite some time. In more the outlying regions, you know, they've gotten away until now not having to utilise technology, but now a lot of these areas are seeing lockdown as well, even New Zealand. So if you're not jumping on now, honestly, you're going to get left behind.
And you're going to be playing catch up, which is not great. Righto, now compliance for agents is scary, so let's move on to something a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
Databases.
Well, look, someone's going to hit that unsubscribe button, and guess what? Once that's done, you won't be able to email them again. And, of course, you can resubscribe them, but you would be breaking the anti-spamming legislation that's in place. Okay, it's there for a reason.
Correct.
If someone wants to unsubscribe or opt out of communication, they can.
Yeah.
But if you keep sending them stuff, they can actually, you know, make a formal complaint against you. So that's the last thing you want to have happen. And I've seen it. I've seen it. I've, you know, when I've worked in agency, we've had a lot of trigger happy agents who just want to like keep spamming and spamming. And there've been a number of, you know, formal complaints made to ACMA, which is the governing body there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, the last part, if we may, Nick, is just to go through the past buyers and past seller part of your database. So do you have all your past buyers and your past sellers in your database? Okay. They should be there. If you've transacted with them, they should be there. I mean, if you've moved from one office to another, you know, and you've continued the relationship and there's no restriction around that, then they should be in your current database. Now, is their information current and up to date? And I've seen this many times. I've helped facilitate so many database cleanups, you know, with you know, during my career and as a consultant. I've helped, you know, helped a lot of officers navigate that process. And we've found that, you know, the information that got input at the time of the sale was probably very basic, and it continues to be basic because no one has actually bothered to keep it up to date. And then, of course, one of the most important parts is, do you have any form of anniversary reminders assigned to them, you know, to stay in touch at least twice a year? And that is actually physically picking up the phone and saying, hi, you know, it's been 12 months since you purchased from us. How's everything going? You know, is there anything that you need? Just wanted to also let you know there's been a few sales in your block or in your, you know, in your neighbourhood that, you know, you may not have been aware of. Okay. Then, of course, you know, do you have them subscribe to regular communications relevant to them as a homeowner? And remember, these don't necessarily have to be emails. They can be SMSs. So I've recently set up with a couple of businesses now. The team goes through and they keep a market monitor, so they know exactly what's come onto the market and what has recently sold. And then they go through the database. They find homeowners in that, either in that building or in that street. And then they do a merged SMS, rather than, you know, spamming people with too many emails. Just thought you might like to know there's been a sale in your street. Okay, and then and if that information's available.
So
and then, of course,
oh, sorry.
There was one last thing I was just going to say. And a lot of people tend to miss this part, is everyone that you've ever sold to, have they provided you any form of review? And this can be any kind of review. It could be a Google review. It could be, one on your Facebook page. It could be on Rate My Agent or on realestate.com. So it's really important to make sure that they provide you with a review, and obviously not leaving it too, strike while the iron's hot, don't leave it too late to get that
Well, I suppose for a home seller, you want to get them as soon as the property is exchanged.
100%. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now, I mean, some home sellers are getting extraordinary results in terms of their sale price. So they're probably going to be stoked.
Yeah, definitely. So what are you finding? Okay, so we are in lockdown here in Sydney. There is a lot of stuff going out for the simple reason that we can't go door knocking. We're not in the office. We're not at open homes, things like that. So there's a lot of communication going out electronically. We spoke last night. Is SMS beating email at the moment?
Look, think about it. Even yourself, Nick, you know, every time your phone rings or a message notification comes up, there's a much higher chance you're actually going to open and view that, okay? Right. Compared to some people have 3 or 4 email accounts. They might have an Outlook account. They might have a Gmail account. They might have a Yahoo one. They'll have their work one. And we've got way too much information overload that it actually gets to a stage. Another agent email, they don't even read it. They just delete it. SMS I don't think is like, you know, the number one. But in terms of bulk communications, I think that's one of the great ways to be able to get a message out. Of course, we get to discuss some of the social media stuff as well, but it's certainly a really good tool.
Well, just on that social, and that's where I see agents, and I suppose coming to the ends, but still circling back to the start, there is so much that you can do with your CRM that people are not aware of. And guys, anyone who is watching this, most people know my journey. I've been in it now going on 17 years. There's no greys at the moment. I've had them taken care of. But I started marketing property on socials almost 10 years ago. I really got good at it probably around 2016 because I was separating my database. So for instance, if I had a 1-bedroom apartment here in Rushcutters Bay, I can go into my CRM, download every buyer inquiry I had in that area that was looking for a property up to $1 million. I could put those email addresses or phone numbers into Facebook and create a lookalike ad. So it's basically that ad would go out to those people who were had that email address attached to Facebook and their friends that looked like them on Facebook. So they had similar interests, the algorithms picked it up, and that is, so you can, not everything has to sit on your wall on social media. You can actually create targeted ads. And that's why I had a client the other day who spent $50 on a property listing. In 14 days, we had 542 potential inquiries, so link clicks, and it reached 5,000 people. And people, I think, they're like, well, how do you get these results? Like, social media doesn't work. It's like, social don't work if you just post a picture on Instagram and drop $20. Working with the database that you've already got and utilizing that, that's how we're getting amazing results on social, because everyone is hanging out on social media at the moment. Why not use the database that you've already got instead of trying to build a new one?
Exactly. And just on that point, and then that's precisely why we're having this conversation, is you can do an effective marketing campaign for a vendor for a fraction of the cost it would, you know, if you to place an ad on the, you know, the major portals, which still have their place and most certainly get property sold. I'm never going to say do not advertise on those portals. But if you wanted to even do a soft launch and you actually wanted to be able to communicate via, you know, social media with, you know, data from your database, you must have made sure beforehand you've actually implemented all the strategies we've discussed. So separating your database, qualifying your buyers, doing the work that it takes to get everything, you know, updated. And then it's a simple matter of then just exporting that data. Now, of course, invest the time, clean it up, and then this step is relatively easy, okay? This should be the easiest part. And if it's something that you don't know how to do, I'm more than happy for people to reach out, and I'm sure that we can work it out together. So it's a relatively easy part.
But also, like, it's I think when we spoke last night, I was telling you about a client of mine that I was working with who just started her own business in the last month or so. And what I've got her to do is to email her database of current home owners and landlords and say, hey, I'm going live on Facebook on Saturday from 11 to 11:15. Here are a list of questions I've been asked over the last week or two, and I thought you might be interested to know. Tune in. If you can't make it, let me know, and I'm happy to email you the video, because you can download it once you finish your live, download the video to your camera roll and email that off. Number one, you're giving good quality information to your database, so to your potential sellers and your potential landlords. They can see that, yeah, okay, actually, you know what? I wanted to know about that. You're directing them to your social, so you're still building your social media, but you're actually providing content, good quality content, rather than just that OFI email address, email that gets spammed on a Friday. But it all comes back.
And it's a proper interaction too. Sorry to cut you off. It's a proper interaction. So you're sending out a message, they're offering the opportunity for them to be able to connect with you in real time. Yeah. Okay, to have their relevant current questions answered right now. Yeah. And then, like you said, later on, you can download it from your live onto your reel, and then you could repurpose that, send it out to those people that perhaps weren't able to make it to the live.
Yeah. Now, I was talking to another client this morning. What does an agent do that doesn't have a database? They're new, they're fresh, they're an associate that's trying, their goal is, in the next 12 months, I want to become a standalone agent, but I've only got 150 people in my database. What can they do?
Look, I think it's important to, try and leverage off sales in the area. Yeah. Obviously, monitoring the market, and that's a great way. You've got to get product knowledge too. So if you don't have much of a database, you can start building one by at least, you can start farming through RP data or something similar, and look for those properties that may have transacted, 5, 7, 10 years ago. Yeah. Given that the turnover of property is around about that life cycle. Yeah. Try your hand at doing some cold calling. People are at home at the moment. Of course, then, speaking to someone like yourself, Nick, is to start building some presence online, to start actually getting people to know who you are. Yeah. Start building a database that way. Of course, if you're in an office where there are other salespeople that maybe don't have time to clean up their database, or perhaps have got some old OFI books. I mean, nobody uses OFI books anymore. Some people do, but maybe they've got some old OFI books they're happy just to do away with and say, hey, you can have these. If you manage to get any leads out of it, then you can work out a bit of referral between the two of you. Yeah. Nothing's impossible. It's about just being creative. And if you're hungry enough, there's no reason why, you can't find a way to start building a database.
Okay, so Carina, for an agent that's been doing it the way we've always done it, we're in lockdown at the moment, and lockdown's not forever. We are going to come out of this. In simple steps, what can they be doing now to get their database cleaned up, get their content and their messaging right, to come out stronger than ever? Not behind the 8 ball, but to come out of this in front. What can they do?
Sure. Okay. Use your time wisely. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. I would 100% use this time to clean up your database. Okay. But before doing so, you may want to establish where you're at now. Yeah. Okay. So it's a matter of actually going through your database with some key metrics that you can actually start measuring at this point. Yeah. Create a strategy around cleaning it up, and then record your results afterwards. Yeah. We all want to come out better people from this. Don't be complacent. Yeah. Don't say, oh, well, everything's everything's screwed. You know, we're going through a tough time. Yeah, we're all going through a tough time.
Yeah.
But there's still opportunity. There's still people that want to sell their home. There is a surplus of buyers currently in Sydney. I can speak from personal experience, having come up against so many buyers at auctions and the like.
Yeah.
So just on that note, I will offer everyone just a very basic one-page review where you can literally just go through and find out certain facts about your database. And if these facts you do not know, it's a really good exercise to find out what the quality of your database at the moment. And of course, there might be some of these parts you're not even utilizing. So hopefully that will spark some interest and motivation to actually start utilizing some of those parts of your CRM.
And look, you have to. I know when I first started, I mean, I live two ways. I live on catching up on emails, but my CRM tells me what I need to be doing every single day. We were talking last night about activity plans. So if you do talk to someone, okay, they're not ready yet, well, give them a call or a text message in 6 months' time, but set that up. So as when you wake up in the day, especially here in lockdown, you think, okay, what am I going to do? You've got a list of 20 things that you've got to do. And that for me is how I keep my sanity, is as far as there'll be days where you wake up and you say, what am I going to do? I'm stuck at home. But no, I've got a list of 60 people to call or 60 letters to send or 60 email, look, whatever it is. But that kind of putting those activity plans in play, I don't think we've covered that.
100%. It doesn't even have to be an activity plan. I mean, keep it really simple. If the idea of an activity plan scares you, and for some of you may not even know what we're talking about here, and that's absolutely fine. We're all here to learn. But, just a simple matter of, okay, if you want to do it really simply, go through the process, start, going through the segmentation process, print out or just do searches of lists of people that are in a particular category. So start with prospective buyers and get on the phone and keep calling until you've made 20 connections in a day. That's going to keep you well and truly occupied. So set some KPIs around that. Have a bit of an ideal week. I've got one. So each day I've got certain tasks that I, set out to complete before the end of the day. And it's important just to have some personal targets around what it is you want to achieve. So if you want to make 20 connections a day during this time, then do it. And whilst you're at it, then qualify these people, find out where they're at now. And then, of course, then allocate some time to tidy that detail up in the database. So some people prefer just to get the list out, get on the phone, call, write down a few notes, and then they might want to update the database in retrospect. Other people that are a bit more savvy, they might actually make the call, and whilst they're actually on the call, update the database as they go. So everyone's got a different style. Either way, whatever way makes it, easier for yourself. It doesn't really matter how you go about it.
And on a final note, and it's just come to me now since I've been talking to you, what I'd also suggest is if you are going to go through your database one by one, make calls or start to tidy it up, make sure you're connecting with them on socials in some capacity, because the one thing when I see an agent call me, well, not so much anymore, but from a homeowner's point of view, if I see a real estate agent's number come up on the phone, it's like, oh my God, they're going to ask me to sell again. I'm not even going to answer the phone, because they know what you're going to say before. No agent rings up and says, "G'day, Carina, how's your weekend? Blah, 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 blah." All right, see ya. They all want something. So maybe start to engage on that social level so as the conversations become social. I've got people that follow me on social media that they're not even in my database. I attract them through socials because, again, coming through, how you pop up on people you might know based on friends and things like that. That's something else I would get people to do with your CRM is when you upload that into Facebook and it goes to Instagram, all of a sudden your vendors and homeowners and people that you've got their data, their name, number and email addresses in your CRM, once you input that into the back of Facebook, they will start to come up automatically as people you may know because you've got a number associated with them. So what a great way to clean up your actual CRM but start building your digital database as well, and then connect and engage on a social level.
That's correct. Yeah. And, at the beginning it might be passive, but it's important that they know that you're still active, that you're still contributing in some way, whether, some agents want to, yell from the rooftops every time they make a sale. Look, people, there's nothing wrong with that. But, be an information source. Show that you're a human being, that, we're all in this together, this whole lockdown. But keep active, keep active on these social platforms.
Okay, I know I've said it before, but last one. Given we are in lockdown and there are people who are hurting at the moment, is sending out content saying smashed building record, 500 above reserve, with a cheesy photo of you sometimes, is that the best way to go when you're messaging homeowners? Or can you give any guidance on that, or is that a my thing? As far as
that's probably more you, although I must say, just like you've got to work out what is good taste, and I think it really comes down to having a little bit of empathy too. So being able to, as an agent, put yourself in the shoes of the people that's going to see your content. So who are these people? If you're boasting about a property sold for $500,000 above reserve, well, congratulations, you just made the buyer feel like they paid too much for the property. Okay. And they may not ever use you. So they've just overpaid, according to you, for their property. And when it comes time for them to sell in 5 to 10 years' time, you're probably not going to be in the shopping list. So be very mindful about the types of messages that you're putting out there. Okay. And of course, in some cases, make sure that you ask your vendor and your buyer, is it okay that we talk about what kind of result we got? Because some people are quite private. So before go, shouting it from the rooftops once again, what the result was or what kind of result you achieved. Just use a little bit of decorum.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think I've learned a couple of things out of that on the compliance side of things. But guys, to anyone out there, like I said, I've known Carina for years, and I know you do a great job. So if you do want to get your compliance stuff up to date, don't know if that's the right thing to say, or you want to get your database cleaned up, I know, like, the thought of cleaning a database is frustrating, and none of us as sales agents really want to do it, to be fair. But
look, I mean, just on that, sorry, Nick, to cut you off, is you can outsource some parts of this, and and that's where you might have a junior in the office, you might want to get a temp in, or you might even want to offshore it. So because I've done this so many times, depending on the CRM, I've got a lot of materials that can help either yourself or someone else follow to navigate the process and not be as daunting as everyone thinks it may be.
Okay, beautiful. So for anyone out there, if you are want to take advantage or take the opportunity of lockdown to really clean it up, make the most out of your CRMs, get your compliance stuff together, we're going to chuck Carina's details down below or up above or wherever you see this video. And along with that information sheet that you've got as well, we'll attach that as well. And thank you very much for talking to us today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.